Hello and welcome to episode 1 of 48 Hour Heroes Origin Stories. I'm your host, Kirk Nordenstrom, and to give you a little bit of background on why I started this, I'm the co-city producer of the Seattle leg of the 48 Hour Film Project. I started it in 2005, about 4 years after the 48 began spreading around the world like wildfire. One of my favorite things about the 48 Hour Film Project is that it challenges filmmakers to put their money where their mouth is and overcome some serious logistical and creative obstacles in order to create a short film over the course of 2 days. My favorite thing about the 48 Hour Film Project is having screenings of the films that these amazing people make over the course of a weekend. It's difficult as an independent filmmaker to get your films into festivals or onto a streaming platform where it'll be seen by anyone. But with the 48 Hour Film Project, we guarantee a screening of your film, whether it's on time or not, at a real theater with a real audience of your peers and your family and friends and the family and friends of your peers. It's an amazing feeling to watch everyone in that darkened room, just awash in the reflection off the screen of these films that were made just a week prior. And everyone who, completes a 48 Hour Film Project film is a hero of mine, as are the other city producers and the small staff at 48 headquarters. These people are my heroes. I was watching Black Widow, and I realized that I'd finally had a format, a hook, so to speak, for a podcast about the 48 Hour Film Project. And that was that everyone who competes or runs a city competition or works at headquarters is my hero. And what's, the first thing that every, comic book movie tells in the story of that individual is their origin story. So that's where I came up with the title 48 Hour Heroes Origin Stories. In this first episode, I am interviewing the man behind the 48, the co-creator, the executive producer of the 48 Hour Film Project worldwide. His name is Mark Ruppert. I've known him for 17 years now. I was in my early 30s. And, he is a hero of mine. He's created this amazing worldwide event that engages tens of thousands of filmmakers every year. And every spring we have Filmapalooza, which is our international awards event to crown the best 48 Hour film of the year. And in a normal non-pandemic year, we all get together, city producers, headquarters staff, and filmmakers from around the world, and watch each other's films, have this amazing time hanging out with people that have a shared experience through the 48 Hour Film Project. I mean, I love it so much that in 2020, just days before the pandemic hit, I was in Rotterdam, and I got a 48 Hour Film Project tattoo logo on my right shoulder with my buddies Chris Cherry, who's one of the co-producers of the Toronto 48 Hour Film Project, and the soon-to-be Dutch city producer, Indra Vent Hoof. And yeah, we got tattoos. The Filmapalooza is amazing. It's such an incredible experience, and we're going to be celebrating the 20th anniversary of Filmapalooza this March in Washington, D.C., the birthplace of the 48 Hour Film Project and Filmopalooza. So that's a little of the backstory, and I'd like to hop right into the interview with Mark Ruppert, co-founder and the executive producer of the 48 Hour Film Project. Enjoy.
So it really doesn't matter what you look like, say or do. I know that I had a cool weekend and you.
Welcome to 48 Hour Heroes Origin Stories, and my guest today, as far as the 48 Hour Film Project is concerned, it really doesn't get more origin story-y than this guy, Mark Ruppert, creator and executive producer of the 48 Hour Film Project, the madman behind this whole thing. So welcome, Mark.
Hey, Kirk, glad to be here. So excited to have you talking about these origin stories about the 48.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was kind of the origin of this was I was watching Black Widow and wanted to do a 48 podcast for a long time. And then, I realized that, anyone who does a 48 Hour Film Project, event, is a personal hero of mine because it's no small accomplishment just to finish one. Whether or not you win, still pulling something off in 2 days is
Absolutely.
no small feat. Film school in a weekend. And
it's quite an accomplishment, and it also it proves to people what they're capable of, right?
Yeah.
They go into it having hopes and dreams of going one way or the other, or sometimes even wondering if they'll come out on the other end with the film. And it's very validating for people.
This is my 18th year running Seattle.
Wow.
And, I've watched careers launch because of this event. They had so much fun, people that had no background whatsoever in film,
Sure.
And, now they're, working for Amazon, they're working for T-Mobile, they're producing their own, films, and they're too busy to do the 48 now, which is, always a bittersweet pill. But, it's great to see people go through this and then come out the other side with a career.
Absolutely. It's one of the most gratifying pieces of running the 48 is to let people express their creativity, and then to hear back from them either, hey, we had a fabulous weekend and so much fun, or, as you said, advances their career and now they're in the industry.
Yeah, it's amazing. And, for me, I did the National Film Challenge in 2004 because I was pestering you and Liz via email pretty persistently. And, I was recruited to run Seattle in 2005. But so I've never actually done a 48 hour. I've only done 72-hour ones. But it is fun, and it's built this a little niche in my life that's very important, which is running Seattle and now Montana with Chris, and I can't foresee a future where I'm not doing it. I enjoy it that much, and what I want to focus on today is one of the pinnacle, the ultimate reward for participating is Filmapalooza. So tell us what Filmopalooza is.
All right. Well, Filmapalooza is our 4-day awards festival. It takes place every year in March, and it celebrates all of the city-winning films from the year before. So we actually have 4 days of screenings, workshops, parties, and then it culminates in the awards ceremony on Saturday night, where we announce who the best 48-hour film of the year is. And so it's an exciting 4 days, and what's really special about it is filmmakers coming from all corners of the world, and you're meeting people. You may not speak the same language, but you speak the same creative language of filmmaking. And so that's what's exciting to see, and so many bonds and friendships have been formed at Filmapalooza. It truly is a great experience.
Yeah, it's my favorite time of the year. I've missed a handful, and I've always regretted not those years when I haven't been able to go, but that's been a while, luckily. But I mean, just the people I've met, I always joke, it's like, if I need a couch to crash on in Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia, I got one.
Right.
Because of Filmapalooza.
It's truly amazing. We hold these. Filmapalooza is not held in one particular city each year, but rather it moves around. So recently we've been in Paris, in Orlando, in Rotterdam. Last year, of course, because of COVID, we were online. And then this year we are returning to Washington, D.C., where the very first Filmapalooza was held back in 2003. So we're glad to be heading back home for this one. And it's what we try to do is design events that really encourage interaction among the filmmakers, so that while you may be coming with your whole team or part of your team, the goal is not to have you just stick with those three people, but rather to interact with other filmmakers. And you do that a number of ways. Number one, you're watching all these amazing films. And so you're seeing what other people have done in 48 hours. You can relate to their experience. You're learning new techniques that you may have never learned. And then it's really these networking events. This year, we're going to be doing a scavenger hunt bus tour of the National Mall, downtown DC. And so that will be forcing people to work together. So it's a great event.
Yeah, it's, just a number of friends I've made and, people I consider family now, it's all because of Filmapalooza. I mean, you're absolutely right. You go there to, be, hopefully awarded, but much like, the 48 itself, even though it is a quote unquote competition, it's not that competitive. Everyone's there to celebrate everyone else. And you walk away with lifelong friends afterward. As you know, in Rotterdam, days before the pandemic hit the world.
Right. Yep.
I got a tattoo with Indra and Chris Cherry. I'm marked for life because of this thing, and, Indra's like the little sister I never had now, That's
great. That much fun. Yeah, I just wanted to comment on when you say it's not, it doesn't feel like a competition. That's in part by design. First, on the local level, the true competition is within yourself and with your team. Can you make it? That is what the competition is. Can you create something in 48 hours? And then, of course, once you do, we show that on the big screen in your local theater. And so that's the great payoff, to have it seen in front of an audience, and you get that immediate feedback. Did what you were trying to communicate, did it work? Is the audience laughing at the right place, or unfortunately, are they laughing at the wrong place, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah.
And then we translate that from the local level to Filmapalooza, where again, you've already won. We're celebrating all of the winners. And then, of course, we do announce the grand champion, as well as our dozen films that go on to our special screening in Cannes.
The possibility to go to Cannes is, it's so slim. When you think in a normal year, there's 130 cities, and there's anywhere from 12 to 200 plus teams in a city. The odds of making it to the top 12 are pretty slim. But when I'm talking to filmmakers and recruiting for Seattle, that's a selling point, and it's unbelievable. Just that it's like winning the lottery to a certain extent. The odds are so against you, but people are like, wait, my film could go and actually screen at Cannes? Sign me up. It's crazy.
Sure. Well, it certainly is a very exciting part of the 48. And we've had this partnership with the festivals for about 15 years now. And we screen as part of the short film corner, but the difference for our partnership is that we actually get a screening. So we're in a screening theater, and filmmakers get to attend and see their films, and then experience the entire festival. We've had most of our filmmakers have gotten into red carpet events. Some of them have had really exciting moments of seeing an impromptu U2 concert on the steps of the palace, and all kinds of fun things. So what amazes me about the Cannes Film Festival is just everybody in the industry is there for this 1 week event, and it's the first time you go, it's just mind-blowing. All these people there, and you in one sense, you don't know which way to turn. There's so much going on and so much to learn and see and do. So it is a ton of fun.
But yeah, getting back to Filmapalooza, I mean, I always try to describe it as, so I didn't go to like my homecoming dances or my senior ball or junior prom, but this is family homecoming, family reunion, the homecoming dance, the prom for me, except it's, movies instead of music.
Sure.
And, it's been in such a wide variety of cities over the years.
Right. We started as partnering with film festivals. And so we had our own event in DC when we were just starting out in 2003, but the very next year we were at South by Southwest. And so that was great to have our screening at that prestigious festival. But by the very next year, we had outgrown them. We had more than a single screening, so we couldn't be at South by Southwest anymore. So I think at that point, we moved on to Cinequest. And Cinequest is the film festival in San Jose each year. And we were there for 3 years. And then we did a couple years at the Miami International Film Festival. And then by that time, it was just time for us to be doing our own thing. So ever since then, in addition to the cities I mentioned before, we've done it in New Orleans, in Taos, New Mexico, in Seattle, of course. You hosted it 1 year. We were also in Albuquerque, New Mexico 1 year. And then Atlanta was another big one.
Yeah, Atlanta was fun. I mean, Cinequest, that was my introduction to the 48 to Filmapalooza.
That's where we met, right?
Yeah. And it was weird because I grew up in San Jose, and 2005 came down in March, and I remember it was like super hot. It was like 90s when we were there. And so it was fun to hang out. I met my sister-in-law to be on that trip, and I just remember a handful of Seattle folk came down, and you and Liz very graciously provided me with a platinum pass to the festival. So I got to go to a lot of things and hit my old stomping grounds. And I just remember my buddies from Seattle, we were hanging out with the guys from Sheffield. And just partying until way too late in the evening. I remember the last night we were at the I can't remember the name of the hotel, but it was just right downtown. I think his name is Philip Baker Hall. He was the guy who played the library cop on Seinfeld.
Okay.
He had a movie at the festival. And so he was just kind of regaling all of us youngsters with stories, and we're just hammered. And Liz came up to me and said, hey, so what'd you think? I'm like, this is, I'm having the time of my life. This is amazing. And just, drunker than I've been in decades at this point. She asked me, she's like, what'd you think? I'm like, yeah, it was great. I can't wait to do it again. And then said, well, how would you like to run the event in Seattle? I was like, yeah, let's do it. And I woke up the next day with a hangover going, what did I just sign up for? I'm an editor. What am I doing?
Too funny.
Yeah. And here we are,
Yeah.
17 years later.
We'll get good people on board as city producers any way we can.
Yeah. And it's really been one of the highlights of, my career in the 48, was hosting Filmapalooza. I'd worked at Filmapalooza, with Nicole and, helping run stuff, but seeing what actually goes on to put the event on is, mind-boggling and awe-inspiring. And, you just kind of need to take a nap after contemplating it.
Well, it is a lot of work. And, but, we get people like yourself to help work on it with us, and we spread that work out to quite a number of city producers and other people. But it is, you're putting on a 4-day event for 400 people, and it takes a lot of planning and logistics and that type of thing. So, but the payoffs, as you've mentioned before, are so great that's what makes it worth it to us. And we're always encouraging people who may or may not know about Filmapalooza to definitely be there, because until you experience it, you don't really fully grasp it. And then people who come, all they think about is how do they get back?
Exactly. The last 4 days I was working as a media manager, DIT, for a Seattle produced talk show pilot, and I was working with both the 2018 Seattle winner and the 2021 Seattle winner, as well as there were 3 other people that have been on teams in the last 2 years.
Nice.
So it's really cool to see, all these people and working with them and
Sure.
Getting to know them a little bit outside of my role as a city producer in the 48. And, this year's winners, I've watched them grow from basically 18, 19-year-old hobbyist filmmakers into professionals.
Right.
And, it was really cool to see them win this year. It was a, long time coming, well-deserved. And, they're basically picking up their whole family and coming to Filmapalooza. So, got to spend a lot of time talking about, what Filmapalooza is. And, I think these guys are going to make the most of it. They're very social, outgoing guys. And, they're super excited.
Nice,
and,
nice. Well, one of the things about the 48, to your point about seeing teams grow, is that regardless of what level filmmaker you are when you come to the 48, you are going to develop skills and expertise over that weekend.
Mm-hmm.
For one thing, there are 3 very common pieces to every single film shoot, whether you're a beginner or whether you're making a Hollywood film. And those are, you've got to stay on a budget. You've got to stay on a time schedule. And of course, time schedule is one thing we really teach you how to stay on.
Yep.
And then you've got to be a problem solver, because I don't care what level of filmmaker you are, there is some problem that is going to come up on your shoot. And you've got to know how to fix that problem and keep going. So those are the 3 essential things that every 48er learns by doing the 48.
Yeah, and I was talking with the Harvey brothers, who ran Team Challenge Accepted in Seattle they ran as that team for 4 years, and they won twice.
Right.
So they had a big hit at Filmapalooza in Los Angeles with their film I, Sharon,
right,
which had everyone chanting "chicken in your face, chicken in your face," which is amazing. And I was talking to them a couple of days ago, about the required elements, the character, line, prop, and genre pairing. And I really appreciated their approach to the required elements, because, and I try to make this a persistent message every year, is that they're not limitations. They're tools,
right,
to spur your creativity. That you need these things, and you can start, with those, so, the time, that's a limiting factor, right. That's, the limiting factor. And, they totally use the required elements rather than shoehorn them in.
Yeah. Yeah.
The story I always like to tell is, about the required elements and limitations spurring creativity is, one of my all-time favorite movies is Monty Python and the Quest for the Holy Grail. I adore that movie.
Right.
And they had such a small budget on that. It was tiny. In the original script, they had knights riding on horses. Then they did the budget. And they realized that horses are expensive in movies, just
right.
all the expenses that pop up. And their Foley guy from the BBC, from the Flying Circus, said, well, why don't we do this? And he clacked some coconuts together.
Right.
And they figured that, a knight riding, mimicking riding with a squire alongside clacking coconuts is way funnier.
Oh, yeah.
And knights riding horses. And, one of the greatest sight gags in, the history of cinematic comedy came about because they had no money.
Right. Right. Exactly.
It's inspiring to see what people do with the required.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, as Friday night when people come to the kickoff event, the first thing they do is pull a genre out of a hat. So they have no idea what type of film they're making, and then we assign, as you said, the character, the prop, and the line, and the character always is a name, a male version and a female version, along with a profession. And then what's interesting is to see how the teams approach it. Some of them will focus, on the prop. I want to make sure that prop is not only integrated, but I'm building my story around the prop. Others focus on the character. Still others, it's strictly the genre, and it's not so much of a shoehorning the other elements in, but rather they're not central to the story. So would think that the rules allow for a lot of flexibility.
You guys allow at headquarters, just allow us to suggest required elements, and that's always one of my favorite parts. And I spend a lot of time thinking about it when I'm making the suggestions. So when suggesting props, I quickly learned, don't use food. Because one year we had oranges and I didn't want to eat oranges for months after that. One year, I did pineapple. I didn't want pineapple after that for a long time. The avocado year wasn't too bad.
You've had a lot of fruits and vegetables in Seattle.
You're the one picking them. I'm just suggesting.
Well, I try to make sure that if there is a food item one year, then we make sure that we go at least a couple years without having another food item again.
Yeah, I've just stopped suggesting food because
there you go.
I love pineapple and oranges, and I was bummed that I just didn't, want to eat it for a while after that.
Well, for me, the one thing that I learned is to try to avoid props that can be used to kill people, because that seems to be the number one common thing that filmmakers will do, is they'll use the prop as a murder weapon. So, I remember in DC we had pencil as the prop one year, and gosh, half the people must have died from pencil. And so I've never given any other city pencil as a prop since.
Yeah, and I always try to take into consideration, especially in years where period piece is, in the mix of genres, to make, something that isn't going to be, anachronistic.
Yeah.
In it, so like a digital watch, and someone gets period piece, and it's like, well, how are you going to shoehorn that into a Victorian piece?
Well, the worst case ever was in Las Vegas. We had this hilarious film. I don't know if you ever saw Breaking Bread, but it was a mockumentary about the Last Supper, and it was absolutely hilarious, including Saint Matthew, the Apostle Matthew, doing a vote of all the apostles. Will it be catered or potluck? And so they all vote for potluck, and the day comes, and Matthew calls Peter over. Peter, didn't I put you in charge of the potluck? Yes. Okay. Why am I looking at the table and all I see is bread? And Peter's like, sometimes it's all bread, sometimes it's all salad. What can you do? Anyway, very hilarious. But to finish the story, their required prop was a can of hairspray. And so it totally didn't fit in. They quickly stuck it in, but it, didn't make any sense.
When I'm vetting the films for the judges, to make sure they qualify, the prop and the line of dialogue are always the most problematic.
Sure.
Because some people do just shoehorn in the prop, just get it on screen somewhere.
Right.
And so I have a spiel every year where I'm saying, it doesn't have to be a big part of your story. Just make it easily visible for me.
Right.
And because there was one film in the earlier years of the 48 in Seattle where a helmet was the prop.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a film I was ready to DQ it because I couldn't find the prop.
Right.
But at the screening, I was in the theater and I was, watching the film, looking up, and then sure enough, there was this wide shot with the actor in front, and there was a bicycle in the back with a helmet hanging off of it.
Too funny.
And if I had blinked or been in the bathroom,
right,
I'd have missed it and had to disqualify it.
Sure.
So, I really hammer that home. And the line of dialogue, that's always the heartbreaker, though.
Right.
I think that's my number one source of DQs.
Absolutely. People just they either forget a word or they don't get it quite right or that type of thing. And it's tough. It's tough. But, we have the rules for a purpose, and to allow people who don't get it right, that's not doing justice to the people who do get it right. So it's that is part of the 2-day challenge, no question about it.
Yeah, and it's just heartbreaking I think the most serious discussions I've had with filmmakers over disqualifications has always been about, the line of dialogue, and it's heartbreaking. I feel for them, I understand. But yeah, I mean, the rules are the rules, and it's meant to be egalitarian. Everyone's, being judged on the same set of rules. And yeah, the line of dialogue is heartbreaking. But then, you see it in some really interesting ways. We've had it sung,
right?
We've had it typed out. But I think one of my favorites was in I, Charon, where they split it across 2 scenes. They had one guy say, "No way," and then cut to another person outside saying, "Never again." And I actually got some, texts in the theater. All of a sudden, people were like, "Oh, that character didn't say it completely." And I said, "No, words just need to, appear or be heard in order." That's
right.
That's it. And they did that. And it was a very clever use of it. And, rightfully they got, best use of dialogue that year, because it was really a clever way to do it.
Oh, yes. Well, we always try to reward the cleverness. One of the things, as you were saying about the film with the bike helmet in the background, they weren't going to get very high points for the adherence category for creative use of the element, but they certainly had it there, so they were qualified for awards. Absolutely.
As much as I enjoy, reviewing all the films before handing them off to the judges, it is just heartbreaking to disqualify a film.
Sure.
And let someone know. But, I mean, I'd say, 8 times out of 10, when I inform them, at least I get to say, "Hey, you're eligible for audience favorite.
Right.
We are going to screen your film."
Yeah.
And, 8 times out of 10, they understand and they're, good with that. Yeah. So, they understand.
Well, the other interesting thing is it also depends how soon after the competition weekend you're having this conversation.
Yeah.
If they're still tired from the weekend, they're mad. But if it's a few days later, then they're more understanding.
Exactly. Well, I mean, I can't believe I used to do my screenings 2 days, start my screenings 2 days after the drop off.
Right.
And that was kind of you did your 48, now I'm going to do mine. It was my solidarity. And the year I had 84 teams, that almost killed me.
I can imagine. How many screening groups is 84 teams?
6.
Okay.
So starting on
3 nights.
Yeah. It was, I was a wreck for about a month after that. It was after that year, I was like, nope, I'm going to go at least a week out now.
There you go.
But, it's amazing, thinking about how much technology has progressed over the course of this. I remember when I had 24 teams my first year and I had to ship the box, because we city producers, we would, collect all the paperwork and all the media associated with it and, ship it to headquarters for archiving. And that 24 teams with mini DV cassettes, that made for a big box of stuff.
Sure.
And then I remember when I had 84, almost everything was on, flash drives.
Right.
And that box of 84 took up about the same space as the 24. And now we got 2 years of no shipping boxes because we have Cinema 48 now, which is amazing.
Digital uploads.
Yeah, it's I always swore never gonna give up the drop off event, but there's some advantages to this digital drop off that are undeniable, and the safety aspect, because I've seen some crazy stuff happen at the drop off.
Oh, yes. We've had lots of tales over the years of people racing to get their film in. So that is one of the big advantages of having the drop off online. We've had people who've gotten tickets on the way. We've heard a story of some crazy filmmakers in Greensboro, North Carolina, where they're racing with their computer plugged into the lighter in their in the car, so they're still editing as the person's driving too fast. Luckily, everybody made it safely, but that is one of the big advantages of the online drop-off.
Yeah, I mean, so Chris and I, we've done virtual kickoffs, for 2020 and 2021, which is a drag. I like that everyone can just upload their team leader agreement. But getting together with everyone, that's important. Yeah, I can see, a future when we get to some semblance of an old normal, where doing an in-person kickoff and a virtual drop-off would be how I'd like to do it. Because I miss chatting with everyone. Sure. Going into the event and coming out of it. Yeah. Well,
hopefully you'll do it this year. I mean, we did an in-person one last year in DC. We had an outdoor space, and we did make it optional. But I think we'll be very close to making in-person required again. So that we'll get back to the old way of doing things.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I'm so excited about the Filmapalooza this year, just being with everyone, because 2 years it's been too long. I mean, Rotterdam, just thinking back to Rotterdam, and that's actually something we should talk about, because we've had 2 international Filmapaloozas now.
That's right.
Paris and Rotterdam. And, those are some of the more epic ones.
Well, certainly they pulled out all the stops when we were in those 2 European cities. What's nice about Europe is that the government gives a lot of support to the arts. We were able to get the Hotel de Ville of Paris as our final awards ceremony venue, and
amazing.
That's just an unbelievable place. And then in Rotterdam, the city council hosted our opening event, our welcome reception, and so that was great to be in the city hall and have one of the town councilors address all of the filmmakers, and so there's some nice touches that happen in Europe that is really great. We've been in contact with conversations with city producers in South Africa as well as in Colombia.
Oh, wow.
As possibly hosting Filmapalooza there sometime in the future. But we're definitely going to let COVID completely run its course before we pick a far-flung location.
Yeah, I mean, some of the cities I personally would love to see would be Prague, because Prague's, and David would do a great job because he's a go-getter. Yeah, South Africa would be great. I've always wanted to go there. Never been to South America. I've been pressing Steve and Chris in Toronto. Like, hey, you guys should think about it, because
they should. Toronto's a great festival town, huh?
Yeah, and it's the industry, co-industry capital for all of Canada. Chris and I, we want to do it again in Seattle someday. So
I think good.
I think it'd be an even better event with Chris on board now, because she does events. That's her thing.
Yeah.
And she's bringing her on as my partner in this is like the smartest decision I ever made.
Nice.
In the 48.
Nice. Sure.
But, let's wrap this up. What's your pitch to filmmakers who are on the fence about coming to Filmapalooza? COVID aside.
Right.
That's a valid fear. But if someone's feels confident about traveling, but is on the fence about going, what's the pitch?
Well, Filmapalooza is unlike any other film festival they can go to. For one thing, is every single filmmaker at Filmapalooza has been through exactly the same thing you have been through, the 48 hours of frantic creativity. And that is a special bond that you all now share. And it's only by being in person and having conversations and connecting that you realize that. And then you can build upon that, whether it's simply admiring each other's work and celebrating all the films, or whether it goes beyond that. We've certainly had collaborations built by meeting at Filmapalooza, people who've gone on to do great things together who never would have done that if they hadn't come to Filmapalooza. So that's the main thing. And then the side thing is certainly the fun that you'll have over the course of those 4 days.
The networking opportunities and just expanding your social and professional network through this. When I was talking to Indra, who I just happened to, my wife Kasha and I happened to be sitting behind her at the opening night screening in Paris.
Okay.
And we were friends after that,
Right.
And I told her, it's like, okay, I want to do a documentary on the history of the 48. And she's like, sign me up, because she'll jump into anything. But I said, the capper is, the longstanding joke is that, we're on 6 of 7 continents. I'm like, I want to produce the 7th continent. I want to get, I want to get an Antarctic, even if it's one team.
Right. We've been working on that from a different angle. We've been trying to teach penguins how to shoot movies. And so as soon as that's accomplished, you can go down there and run it.
But there's got to be something like at Murtaugh. There's got to be a handful of, people with iPhones who could do it.
Right.
I said, want to send the HQ staff down there with, parkas and flags and put a 48 flag on Antarctica and finally say we all 7 continents.
That's right. Too fun.
Well, Mark, thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in about 6 weeks.
I know it's going to be great.
If anyone's on the fence and feels comfortable traveling, please, think about coming to Filmapalooza. It's, once you go, you'll always want to go back. It's a unique experience and a very rewarding one. So
exactly. Come join all of your fellow filmmakers for 4 days of great fun.
And the karaoke night. Just always legendary. All right. Well, thank you again, Mark. And hope to talk to you again about more 48 stuff.
Perfect. Look forward to it and see you at Filmopalooza.
So it really doesn't matter what you look like, say or do. I know that I had a cool weekend and you.
48 Hour Heroes Origin Stories is a production of Media Without Borders and the Seattle 48 Hour Film Project.